It was an ordinary Monday morning at Lincoln High School, where students shuffled into classrooms with sleepy eyes and backpacks slung over their shoulders. The air smelled faintly of chalk dust and freshly sharpened pencils, but in room 203, something extraordinary and deeply troubling was about to unfold. Ms. Harper, a strict yet respected history teacher in her late 40s, had been teaching for nearly 2 decades. She believed firmly in rules and discipline, often reminding her students that structure builds character. But today, her rigid approach would lead to consequences no one could have predicted. The class consisted of 25 students from diverse backgrounds, each carrying their own stories and struggles. Among them sat Maya Johnson, a bright-eyed 16-year-old who always wore her hair in thick braids adorned with colorful beads. To Maya, her braids weren't just a hairstyle. They were part of her identity, a connection to her culture and a source of pride. Her mother spent hours every weekend carefully crafting those intricate plaits, telling Maya stories passed down through generations while they bonded over the rhythmic clicking of the comb. As Ms. Harper began her lesson on colonial America, she noticed Maya fiddling with the ends of her braids absent-mindedly. It wasn't unusual behavior. Teenagers often found ways to distract themselves during lectures. However, this time, Ms. Harper grew increasingly irritated. "Maya," she snapped, pointing sharply toward the girl. "Put your hands down and focus, you're being disruptive." Maya froze, cheeks flushing red as whispers rippled through the room. She quickly dropped her hands onto her desk, trying to shrink into invisibility. For most of the period, silence reigned except for Ms. Harper's voice droning on about historical treaties and battles. Yet despite her efforts to stay quiet, Maya couldn't help but feel singled out. Why did Ms. Harper always seem to pick on her? Was it because she raised her hand too much? Or maybe because she liked asking questions when things didn't make sense? As the bell rang, signaling the end of class, Maya stood up along with everyone else, eager to leave behind the tension that had built up around her. Just as she reached the door, however, Ms. Harper called out sternly, "Maya, come here, please." Heart pounding, Maya turned back, gripping the strap of her backpack tightly. "Yes, Ms. Harper?" she asked hesitantly. Ms. Harper crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. "I've told you before about keeping distractions to a minimum in my classroom. Your braids are making noise, and it's affecting the learning environment." Maya blinked, stunned. "Making noise?" she repeated, unsure if she'd heard correctly. "Yes," Ms. Harper said firmly. "Those beads clink whenever you move your head. It's distracting. Either remove them or don't come back to my class." A wave of disbelief washed over Maya. Her braids weren't just accessories, they were a symbol of who she was. How could Ms. Harper ask her to change such an integral part of herself? Feeling cornered, Maya stammered, But these are my braids. They're not just decorations. I don't care what they mean to you." Ms. Harper interrupted coldly. "Rules apply to everyone equally. If you can't follow them, there will be consequences." Tears pricked at the corners of Maya's eyes, but she refused to let them fall, not in front of Ms. Harper. With trembling fingers, she unclasped the beads from her braids, dropping them into her pocket. Each tiny click echoed loudly in the now empty classroom, feeling like a betrayal of her heritage. When she finally walked out, shoulders slumped, she felt hollow inside, as though a piece of her soul had been stripped away. Word spread quickly among Maya's friends, thanks to the grapevine that connected high school hallways faster than any social media platform. By lunchtime, half the student body knew what had happened. Some expressed sympathy, patting Maya on the back or offering kind words. Others whispered judgmentally, wondering why she hadn't just complied with Ms. Harper's demands. But one person took particular notice: Jamal Carter, the president of the school's diversity club. Jamal was known for his fiery passion when it came to advocating for marginalized communities. He approached Maya cautiously during lunch, sitting beside her under the shade of a large oak tree. "Hey," he said gently, "are you okay?" Maya shrugged, picking at her sandwich without much appetite. I mean, it's just hair, right?" "It's not just hair," Jamal countered firmly. It's your culture, your identity. What Ms. Harper did, it's wrong, and we need to do something about it. At first, Maya hesitated. Confronting a teacher felt intimidating, especially someone as authoritative as Ms. Harper. But as Jamal explained his plan to bring attention to the issue and demand accountability, she began to feel a spark of hope. Maybe she didn't have to face this alone. That afternoon, Jamal drafted a letter addressed to the school administration, outlining the incident and emphasizing how Ms. Harper's actions perpetuated cultural insensitivity. Dozens of students signed it, including members of the diversity club and even some teachers who agreed that the situation needed addressing. By the next day, copies of the letter were circulating online, drawing support from parents and community leaders alike. One of those leaders happened to be Chief Raymond Mitchell, the head of the local police department. Known for his commitment to justice and equality, Chief Mitchell had grown up in the same neighborhood as Maya. When he saw posts about the incident on social media, he felt a pang of anger mixed with sadness. As a father of 3 daughters, he understood how important it was for young people to feel seen and valued. Determined to take action, he decided to visit Lincoln High personally. When Chief Mitchell arrived at the school the following morning, dressed in his crisp uniform, and accompanied by 2 officers, the entire building buzzed with anticipation. Students craned their necks to catch a glimpse of him striding down the hallway, his presence commanding respect. Principal Thompson greeted him nervously in the office, clearly unprepared for such high-profile involvement. "Chief Mitchell," Principal Thompson began, forcing a smile, "to what do we owe the pleasure?" "I'm here about Maya Johnson," Chief Mitchell replied bluntly, his tone leaving no room for evasion. "I want to hear exactly what happened between her and Ms. Harper." Principal Thompson shifted uncomfortably in his chair, glancing at the closed door as if expecting someone to burst in and save him. "Well, it seems there was a misunderstanding regarding classroom decorum." "A misunderstanding?" Chief Mitchell interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "From what I've heard, a young woman was humiliated because of her cultural expression. That doesn't sound like a misunderstanding to me." Before Principal Thompson could respond, Ms. Harper entered the room, summoned earlier by an assistant principal. Her face paled visibly upon seeing Chief Mitchell seated across from her boss. "Ms. Harper," Chief Mitchell said, standing up to meet her gaze directly, "explain yourself." For once, the usually confident teacher faltered, stumbling over her words as she tried to justify her actions. But Chief Mitchell listened patiently, nodding occasionally until she finished. Then, leaning forward slightly, he spoke in a low, measured voice. "Let me tell you something, ma'am. Respect goes both ways. If you expect your students to respect your rules, then you need to respect them, their identities, their cultures, their humanity. Cutting off Maya's braids wasn't about maintaining order, it was about power, and that's unacceptable." By the end of the meeting, several things became clear. Ms. Harper would undergo mandatory sensitivity training. The school would implement new policies to protect cultural expressions, and Maya would receive a formal apology, not just from Ms. Harper but from the entire administration. As Chief Mitchell left the building, surrounded by cheering students, Maya stood near the entrance, tears streaming down her face. But this time, they were tears of relief and triumph. Though the battle wasn't entirely over, one thing was certain. Maya's courage, combined with the support of her peers and allies like Chief Mitchell, had sparked a change that would resonate far beyond the walls of Lincoln High School. And for the first time in days, she allowed herself to smile. A small, tentative smile that promised brighter days ahead. The fallout from Ms. Harper's actions spread like wildfire, igniting conversations not just within Lincoln High School, but across the entire community. By Tuesday morning, Maya's story had gone viral on social media platforms, with hashtags like "You Respect Our Cultures" and "Stand with Maya" trending nationwide. People from all walks of life weighed in. Parents, educators, activists, and even celebrities shared their thoughts, many recounting similar experiences of being forced to conform to rigid standards that dismissed their cultural identities. For Maya, who had initially felt so small and powerless. This sudden wave of support was overwhelming. Jamal Carter, ever the strategist, wasted no time capitalizing on the momentum. That same evening, he called an emergency meeting of the Diversity Club in the school library. Around 20 students gathered, buzzing with ideas about how to keep the pressure on the administration while ensuring Maya's voice remained at the center of the movement. Jamal stood at the front of the room, pacing back and forth as he spoke passionately. "We've got people listening now," he said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "This isn't just about Maya anymore, it's about every student who's ever been told they're too much or not enough because of who they are. We need to turn this moment into real change." One of the club members, a quiet sophomore named Priya Patel, raised her hand hesitantly. "What if we organize a walkout?" she suggested. "Something big, where everyone leaves class for 10 minutes to show solidarity." The idea sparked immediate excitement among the group. A walkout would send a powerful message, not only to the school administration, but also to the wider community. They decided to set it for Thursday afternoon, giving themselves 2 days to plan and spread the word. Flyers were designed, social media posts drafted, and phone trees created to ensure maximum participation. The slogan chosen for the event was simple, yet impactful. "Respect us, respect our roots." Meanwhile, Maya found herself thrust into the spotlight in ways she never anticipated. Reporters began reaching out to her family, asking for interviews. At first, Maya refused to speak publicly, still reeling from the emotional toll of the incident. But after encouragement from Jamal and her mother, she agreed to record a short video message. Sitting on her bed surrounded by pillows, Maya looked directly into the camera, her braids once again adorned with colorful beads, a defiant act of reclaiming her identity. "I didn't think something like this could happen in 2023, she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "But it did, and it hurts. My braids aren't just hair. They're part of my culture, my history, my family. No one should have to choose between being themselves and going to school. I hope what happened to me can help other kids feel safe and proud of who they are." The video went live late Wednesday night and quickly amassed thousands of views. Comments poured in from strangers offering words of encouragement, sharing their own stories, and pledging to join the walkout. Even local news stations picked up the clip, broadcasting it during their evening segments. Overnight, Maya became a symbol of resilience, her quiet strength resonating deeply with viewers. Back at Lincoln High, tensions simmered beneath the surface. While many students supported Maya, others defended Ms. Harper, arguing that teachers had a right to enforce classroom rules. Some parents emailed Principal Thompson, accusing him of bowing to political correctness and demanding stricter discipline instead. The divide grew more pronounced as Thursday approached, with heated debates erupting in hallways and online forums. Ms. Harper, for her part, seemed to retreat into herself. She avoided eye contact with students, kept her classroom door closed during breaks, and canceled her usual after-school tutoring sessions. Rumors swirled about whether she regretted her decision or simply resented the backlash. When approached by colleagues, she offered vague responses, insisting she had only acted in the best interest of her students. Yet, deep down, she couldn't ignore the gnawing sense of unease that followed her everywhere. On Thursday morning, the atmosphere at Lincoln High was electric. Students arrived wearing brightly colored head wraps, bandanas, and hairstyles celebrating their diverse backgrounds. Posters plastered on lockers read phrases like "hair is power" and "culture matters." By lunchtime, nearly the entire student body knew exactly what was coming next. At 1:30 p.m. sharp, the bell rang, signaling the start of fifth period. Instead of heading to class, hundreds of students streamed out of buildings and onto the football field, where Jamal and Maya stood waiting at the center. Cheers erupted as the crowd grew larger, filling the stands and spilling onto the grass. Jamal grabbed a megaphone and climbed onto a makeshift stage, the school's portable podium usually reserved for pep rallies. "Thank you all for showing up today," he shouted, his voice amplified over the din. "This isn't just about Maya. It's about every single one of us who's ever been made to feel less than because of our culture, our race, or our identity. Let's make sure the world hears us loud and clear." The crowd roared in response, chanting slogans and holding up signs. Maya stepped forward next, clutching Jamal's arm for support. Though visibly nervous, she managed to smile as she addressed the sea of faces before her. "I didn't plan for any of this to happen," she admitted, her voice stronger now. "But I'm glad it did. Because maybe, just maybe, things will start to change. Thank you for standing with me." As the walkout continued, cameras captured everything. The speeches, the chants, the unity. News helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting live footage to stations across the country. Parents and community members joined in, forming a human chain around the perimeter of the school grounds. Even some teachers walked out in solidarity, holding placards that read, "Educate, don't discriminate." Principal Thompson watched the scene unfold from his office window, his expression unreadable. He had spent decades working in education, priding himself on maintaining order and fostering academic excellence. But now, faced with such widespread unrest, he realized he had underestimated the depth of the issues plaguing his school. Sighing heavily, he picked up the phone and dialed Superintendent Lewis, requesting an emergency meeting to discuss long-term solutions. By the time the walkout ended an hour later, the impact was undeniable. Social media timelines lit up with photos and videos from the event, further amplifying its reach. Local politicians issued statements condemning cultural insensitivity in schools, while advocacy groups pledged to push for statewide reforms. Most importantly, students returned to class feeling empowered, knowing they had taken a stand for something greater than themselves. That evening, Maya sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, scrolling through her phone as notifications flooded in. Despite the whirlwind of attention, she felt a newfound sense of peace. For the first time, she understood the power of speaking up, not just for herself, but for everyone who deserved to be seen and heard. As she clicked like on yet another supportive comment, she whispered under her breath, "We're just getting started." And indeed they were. The aftermath of the walkout at Lincoln High School rippled far beyond the school gates, sparking a chain reaction that no one, not Maya, not Jamal, not even Principal Thompson, could have fully anticipated. By Friday morning, the story had evolved from a local incident into a national conversation. News outlets across the country ran segments dissecting the events, while talk show hosts debated the broader implications of cultural insensitivity in education. Social media remained ablaze with hashtags like "Respect Our Cultures" and "Stand with Maya," drawing attention to similar incidents that had occurred in schools nationwide. For many, this wasn't just about one teacher or one student. It was about systemic issues that needed addressing. At the center of it all, Maya found herself grappling with the weight of her newfound visibility. Overnight, she had become an accidental activist, her name synonymous with resistance against oppressive norms. While some students marveled at her courage, others whispered behind her back, labeling her as too much or accusing her of seeking attention. Despite the negativity, Maya leaned on her support system, her mother who reminded her daily how proud she was, Jamal who continued to guide her through the chaos, and the growing network of allies who reached out to offer encouragement. Still, the pressure was immense, and Maya often found herself lying awake at night, wondering if she'd made the right choice in speaking up. Meanwhile, Ms. Harper's situation grew increasingly precarious. The backlash against her actions intensified, with petitions circulating online calling for her immediate dismissal. Parents demanded answers during PTA meetings, while angry emails flooded the principal's inbox. Some former students came forward, sharing stories of how Ms. Harper had belittled them for their appearances or cultural practices. One former student recounted being scolded for wearing a hijab because it supposedly distracted classmates. Another described being mocked for bringing traditional food to lunch, only for Ms. Harper to confiscate it without explanation. These revelations painted a troubling picture of a teacher whose rigid adherence to rules masked deeper biases. Principal Thompson, caught in the crossfire, struggled to navigate the crisis. On one hand, he understood the community's outrage and the need for accountability. On the other, he felt torn between protecting his staff and ensuring justice for Maya. After hours of deliberation with Superintendent Lewis, they decided to place Ms. Harper on administrative leave pending an investigation. The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some praised the decision as a step toward accountability, while others argued it didn't go far enough. Regardless, the move signaled a shift in how seriously the administration was taking the matter. As tensions simmered within the school, the Diversity Club wasted no time capitalizing on the momentum. Jamal called another meeting, this time inviting parents, teachers, and community leaders to join the discussion. The goal was clear: transform the energy of the walkout into tangible change. Together, they drafted a comprehensive list of demands, aimed at creating a more inclusive environment at Lincoln High. Among the proposals were mandatory diversity training for all faculty members, updated dress code policies that respected cultural expressions, and the establishment of a student advisory board to provide input on school policies. One of the most passionate advocates for these changes was Dr. Evelyn Carter, a retired professor and longtime resident of the neighborhood. A close friend of Maya's grandmother, Dr. Carter had dedicated her career to studying racial equity in education. When she heard about the incident, she immediately reached out to Jamal, offering her expertise. At the meeting, she stood before the group, her voice steady but filled with conviction. "This is not just about hair," she began, gesturing emphatically. "This is about power. Who gets to decide what is acceptable and what isn't? For too long, our schools have operated under systems designed to erase individuality and enforce conformity. It's time we dismantle those systems." Her words resonated deeply, earning nods of agreement from everyone present. With Dr. Carter's guidance, the group refined their proposals, adding specific language to address implicit bias and ensure transparency throughout the implementation process. They also planned a series of workshops and panels to educate both students and staff on the importance of cultural sensitivity. While progress seemed promising, not everyone welcomed the changes. A vocal minority of parents and teachers pushed back, arguing that such measures would undermine discipline and academic rigor. Some accused the Diversity Club of promoting division rather than unity, claiming that focusing on race and culture only highlighted differences instead of bridging gaps. These criticisms gained traction among conservative groups, which began organizing counter-protests outside the school. Signs reading, "Keep politics out of schools and focus on education, not identity," appeared alongside angry chants directed at Maya and her supporters. Despite the opposition, Maya refused to back down. She attended every meeting, listened to every argument, and responded with calm determination. During one particularly heated exchange with a parent who insisted that rules are rules, Maya took a deep breath and replied, "Rules are supposed to protect us, not hurt us. If a rule makes someone feel less human, then maybe it's time to rethink that rule." Her words silenced the room, leaving many to reflect on their own perspectives. As the week drew to a close, another unexpected development captured everyone's attention. Chief Raymond Mitchell announced plans to hold a town hall meeting at the local community center. His involvement had already sent shockwaves through the community, but this latest move signaled his commitment to addressing the issue head-on. Flyers advertising the event promised an open forum where residents could voice their concerns, share ideas, and work together toward solutions. On Saturday evening, hundreds of people packed into the community center, filling every seat and spilling into the aisles. The atmosphere was charged with emotion, hopeful yet tense, expectant yet wary. Chief Mitchell opened the meeting with a powerful speech, acknowledging the pain and frustration felt by so many. "What happened at Lincoln High is unacceptable," he declared, his voice echoing through the crowded room. "It's a reflection of larger problems that we as a community must confront. We can't afford to look away anymore. Tonight, let's listen to each other, not to argue, but to understand." For hours, individuals took turns speaking at the microphone. Students shared stories of feeling marginalized or misunderstood. Parents expressed fears about sending their children to school. Teachers voiced frustrations about lacking resources to address diversity issues effectively. And amidst it all, Maya sat quietly in the front row, holding her mother's hand tightly. Though she didn't speak again that night, her presence served as a reminder of why they were there, to create a world where no child would ever feel diminished because of who they are. By the end of the meeting, several key resolutions emerged. The school board agreed to review its policies, incorporating feedback from students and parents. Local businesses pledged funding for diversity initiatives, including scholarships for underserved students. And perhaps most significantly, Chief Mitchell announced the formation of a task force dedicated to addressing systemic inequities in education, a coalition comprising educators, law enforcement officials, activists, and community leaders. As Maya walked home that night surrounded by friends and family, she allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, filled with obstacles and setbacks. But for the first time, she felt hopeful, not just for herself, but for future generations. Change was possible, and she had played a part in making it happen, and as the lights of the community center faded into the distance, Maya smiled softly, knowing that this was only the beginning. The weeks following the town hall meeting brought both progress and resistance, as Lincoln High School, and the broader community, grappled with the challenges of implementing meaningful change. The task force, led by Chief Raymond Mitchell, held its first official gathering in early November, convening in the same community center where the emotional town hall had taken place. Comprised of teachers, parents, students, activists, and local leaders, the group was tasked with addressing systemic inequities within the education system. While their mission was clear, the path forward was anything but easy. At the inaugural meeting, tensions ran high as members debated priorities. Some argued for immediate policy changes, such as revising dress codes or mandating anti-bias training for all staff. Others emphasized the need for long-term cultural shifts, advocating for curriculum updates that included diverse perspectives and histories. Maya attended these sessions alongside Jamal and Dr. Evelyn Carter, her confidence growing with each passing week. She spoke up often, sharing insights from her own experiences while encouraging quieter voices to be heard. Her presence served as a constant reminder of why their work mattered. One particularly contentious issue arose when discussing accountability measures for teachers like Ms. Harper. A faction of parents insisted that punitive actions were necessary to send a strong message about intolerance for discriminatory behavior. However, some educators countered that dismissals alone wouldn't solve deeper problems. Instead, they advocated for restorative practices aimed at fostering understanding and growth. After hours of heated debate, the task force reached a compromise. Any teacher found guilty of bias-related misconduct would undergo intensive retraining, coupled with regular evaluations to ensure improvement. Failure to meet expectations after multiple attempts could result in termination. While the task force worked tirelessly behind the scenes, life at Lincoln High remained turbulent. The backlash against Maya and the Diversity Club intensified, fueled by outside groups determined to discredit their efforts. Flyers criticizing political correctness appeared on lampposts around town, while anonymous social media accounts spread false rumors about the club's motives. Despite this hostility, Maya refused to let fear dictate her actions. With Jamal's support, she organized weekly meetings where students could discuss their concerns and strategize ways to counter misinformation. During one such session, Priya Patel, an introverted sophomore who had initially suggested the walkout, proposed an idea that captured everyone's imagination. "What if we create a mural?" she asked shyly, fiddling with the edge of her notebook. "Something big and colorful that celebrates diversity and unity. It could go right outside the cafeteria so everyone sees it every day." The suggestion sparked enthusiasm among the group. Over the next few weeks, dozens of students collaborated on designing the mural, incorporating symbols, patterns, and colors representing various cultures. Maya contributed intricate braided designs reminiscent of her own hair, while others added elements inspired by their heritage. When completed, the vibrant artwork stretched across an entire wall, serving as a powerful visual testament to the strength of their collective identity. As positive developments unfolded, there were also moments of deep frustration. Principal Thompson faced mounting pressure from both sides, those demanding swift action and those resistant to change. His indecisiveness earned him criticism from faculty members and parents alike. In mid-November, during a tense school board meeting, Superintendent Lewis announced plans to bring in an external consultant specializing in equity and inclusion to evaluate Lincoln High's policies and procedures. Though intended as a neutral step, the decision drew mixed reactions. Some praised the move as evidence of genuine commitment to reform, while skeptics dismissed it as mere posturing. Meanwhile, Ms. Harper remained on administrative leave, awaiting the outcome of the investigation into her conduct. Rumors swirled about her future, ranging from reinstatement under strict conditions to permanent dismissal. Students held divided opinions, reflecting the broader community's polarized stance. For Maya, the uncertainty weighed heavily. Part of her wanted closure, to know definitively whether justice would prevail, but another part feared what might happen if Ms. Harper returned without having truly grappled with her actions. Amidst the chaos, unexpected allies emerged. One afternoon, as Maya sat alone in the library working on a history project, she looked up to see Mrs. Dawson, a veteran English teacher known for her warmth and wisdom. Clutching a steaming cup of tea, Mrs. Dawson slid into the chair opposite Maya and smiled gently. "I just wanted to say how proud I am of you," she began, her voice soft yet firm. "You've handled everything with such grace and courage. Not many people your age could do what you've done." Maya blinked, surprised by the unexpected praise. "Thank you," she murmured, unsure how else to respond. Mrs. Dawson leaned forward slightly, lowering her tone. "I know things have been tough lately, especially with Ms. Harper. But please remember, you're not alone in this fight. There are plenty of us here rooting for you, even if we don't always show it." Her words lingered long after she left, providing Maya with renewed resolve. Encouraged by Mrs. Dawson's support, Maya decided to take her advocacy beyond Lincoln High. With Jamal's help, she drafted a letter addressed to state legislators, urging them to pass laws protecting students' rights to express their cultural identities freely. The letter garnered signatures from hundreds of students, parents, and educators across the district, amplifying its impact. By December, signs of real change began to emerge. The school board approved updated dress code policies explicitly allowing hairstyles tied to cultural or religious practices. Mandatory diversity training sessions commenced for all staff members, facilitated by experts brought in specifically for this purpose. Additionally, the newly formed Student Advisory Board held its first meeting, giving students a direct line of communication with administrators. These victories, though incremental, represented significant strides toward creating a more inclusive environment, yet challenges persisted. Resistance from certain quarters showed no signs of abating, manifesting in everything from petty vandalism, targeting the mural, to thinly veiled insults hurled at Maya in hallways. Each incident tested her patience and resilience, but she drew strength from the growing network of supporters surrounding her. Together they stood firm against adversity, united by a shared vision of equity and respect. On the last day before winter break, Maya stood before her classmates during homeroom, clutching a piece of paper tightly in her hands. Taking a deep breath, she began reading aloud. "When this started, I never imagined it would grow into something so much bigger than me. But now, looking back, I realize that's exactly what needed to happen. Change doesn't come from staying silent. It comes from speaking up even when it's hard. So thank you to everyone who has stood with me, believed in me, and fought alongside me. We've accomplished so much already, but our work isn't done. Let's keep pushing forward, because together, we can build a world where everyone feels seen, valued, and loved." Applause erupted throughout the room, followed by cheers and whistles. As Maya returned to her seat, blinking back tears, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for her friends, her family, and most importantly, herself. She had started this journey feeling small and powerless, but now she knew better. She was capable, resilient, and unstoppable. and as snowflakes began drifting lazily from the sky outside, blanketing the world in white, Maya smiled softly, knowing that brighter days lay ahead, not just for her, but for everyone willing to dream of a better tomorrow. As winter gave way to spring, the ripple effects of Maya's courage and the collective efforts of Lincoln High School continued to reshape not only the institution, but also the wider community. What had begun as a single incident, a teacher humiliating a student over her braids, had blossomed into a movement that challenged entrenched systems of bias and exclusion. The changes weren't immediate or seamless. Progress is rarely linear, especially when it involves dismantling deeply rooted inequities. But step by step, brick by brick, a new foundation was being laid, one built on respect, understanding, and inclusivity. By March, the Diversity Club had become one of the most active organizations at Lincoln High. Under Jamal's leadership, they spearheaded initiatives aimed at fostering dialogue and celebrating cultural heritage. One of their flagship projects was Cultural Day, an annual event where students could showcase traditions, foods, music, and stories from their backgrounds. For the first time in years, the school gymnasium buzzed with laughter, applause, and the tantalizing aroma of dishes from around the world. Maya played a central role, organizing a segment dedicated to African hairstyles, complete with live demonstrations of braiding techniques. Watching students queue up eagerly to learn about cornrows and box braids filled her with pride, not just for herself but for everyone brave enough to share pieces of who they were. The mural outside the cafeteria remained a symbol of resilience despite repeated attempts to deface it. Anonymous vandals would occasionally spray graffiti across its vibrant surface, leaving hateful messages like, "Go back home," or "Stay in your lane." Yet each time, Maya and her peers rallied together, scrubbing away the hate under the watchful eyes of supportive teachers. With every cleanup effort, the mural seemed to grow stronger, its colors brighter, its message louder. It became more than just art. It was defiance incarnate, proof that no amount of hatred could erase the beauty of unity. Meanwhile, the task force led by Chief Raymond Mitchell achieved several milestones. After months of research, interviews, and consultations, they released a comprehensive report detailing recommendations for systemic reform within the district. Among the key proposals were updating history curricula to include contributions from marginalized communities, establishing mandatory anti-bias training programs for all staff members, creating safe spaces for students to discuss issues related to identity and belonging, instituting transparent reporting mechanisms for incidents of discrimination or harassment. Superintendent Lewis announced plans to implement these changes gradually, starting with pilot programs at Lincoln High before expanding them district-wide. While some critics dismissed the timeline as too slow, others praised the cautious approach, arguing that lasting change required careful planning and execution. Regardless of differing opinions, one thing was clear: the conversation had shifted, irrevocably. No longer could schools ignore the importance of addressing cultural sensitivity head-on. Ms. Harper's fate finally came to light in late April, following the conclusion of the investigation. Though details were kept confidential, sources confirmed that she had been offered two options: resign voluntarily or face formal termination proceedings. In the end, Ms. Harper chose to leave quietly, citing personal reasons. Her departure marked the close of a painful chapter for many, but also opened the door for healing and reconciliation. A farewell letter addressed to colleagues expressed regret for any harm caused, though it stopped short of acknowledging specific wrongdoing. Some viewed it as insufficient, while others saw it as a small step toward accountability. In the wake of Ms. Harper's exit, Principal Thompson introduced a new hire, Ms. Angela Bennett, a seasoned educator known for her commitment to culturally responsive teaching practices. From her very first day, Ms. Bennett made it clear that her classroom would be a space of mutual respect and exploration. She invited students to bring elements of their cultures into lessons, encouraging them to connect academic concepts with real-world experiences. When Maya walked into Ms. Bennett's history class for the first time, she noticed something different. a genuine curiosity and openness that put her immediately at ease. As graduation season approached, Maya found herself reflecting on how much had changed since that fateful Monday morning back in September. She thought about the countless hours spent strategizing with Jamal, debating policies with the task force and defending her beliefs against detractors. She remembered the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, and the overwhelming support that carried her through. Most importantly, she thought about the legacy she hoped to leave behind, not just for future generations of Lincoln High students, but for anyone fighting to be seen and valued for who they truly are. On the evening of the senior award ceremony, Maya stood nervously backstage, adjusting the beads in her braids for what felt like the 100th time. Tonight marked the culmination of her high school journey, and she had been chosen to deliver the closing speech, an honor typically reserved for top academic achievers. As names were called and trophies handed out, Maya rehearsed her words, silently, willing her nerves to settle. When her turn came, she stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. Spotlights illuminated her face as she looked out at the sea of familiar faces, teachers, classmates, family members, all waiting to hear what she had to say. Taking a deep breath, she began. 2 years ago, I never imagined I'd stand here today speaking to all of you. Back then, I was just another kid trying to fit in, hoping no one would notice me too much. But life has a funny way of pushing us out of our comfort zones, doesn't it? And sometimes, those uncomfortable moments lead to something extraordinary. She paused, scanning the audience before continuing. This year has taught me so many things about courage, about resilience, about the power of standing together. We've faced challenges, yes, but we've also celebrated victories. Together, we've proven that change is possible when we refuse to stay silent. So whether you're heading off to college, starting a job, or figuring out your next steps, carry this lesson with you. Never underestimate the impact of using your voice. Her final words echoed through the auditorium, met with a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever. As tears streamed down her cheeks, Maya realized something profound. She wasn't just saying goodbye to high school. She was stepping into a future shaped by her own choices, and countless others who believed in the possibility of a better world. That night, as fireworks lit up the sky during the post-ceremony celebration, Maya hugged her mother tightly, savoring the warmth of the moment. Nearby, Jamal grinned broadly, holding his diploma aloft like a trophy. Even Principal Thompson joined in the festivities, clapping along to the music and sharing laughs with students he once struggled to understand. Though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, for Maya, for Lincoln High, for society as a whole, the seeds of transformation had been planted. They would take root slowly, nurtured by patience, perseverance, and unwavering hope. And someday, perhaps the world would look back on this moment as the beginning of a brighter era, one where everyone, regardless of race, culture, or identity, could walk proudly, unapologetically themselves. As Maya gazed upward at the starry night sky, she whispered softly, almost to herself, "We did it." And indeed they had.